the CGET, and Lily Liu, reporting from ground in Tianjin. The 2025 Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit is set to open today in Tianjin, drawing over 20 leaders to deliberate on key global issues. In the latest developments, leaders from across Asia continue to arrive in Tianjin for the 2025 SCO Summit. Chinese President Xi Jinping and the First Lady Peng Liyuan has hosted a welcome banquet for participating guests and held bilateral meetings with the leaders of Azerbaijan, Maldives, and Kyrgyzstan. Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Laos have also confirmed their leaders' arrival, emphasizing the summit's role as a platform for strengthening regional cooperation and multilateral engagement. This year's summit comes against the backdrop of the rising global conflicts, U.S. tariffs on India, and growing digital security threats. Leaders are expected to deliberate on energy, counterterrorism, as well as regional stability, while projecting the SCO as a non-Western power bloc. Now for this discussion, we're joined by Marianne Duris. She's a European affairs expert, joins us live from Brussels, and Alison Mutler. She's a former AP Bureau of Chief in Romania and joins us live from Bucharest. And Dr. Tomohiko Taniguchi, he's a former advisor to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. I would first like to go to our guest, Alison. From your analysis, what do you think? Are we seeing the organization, this SCO, coming up as a counterweight to Western alliances, or is it still not quite there yet?
Impression sitting in Europe, true, next to the Ukraine conflict is yes, very much so. Trump's devastating tariffs have had a devastating, destabilizing effect on the world, whatever his aims were, and that in some ways weakens the United States. And so the meeting of these 20 leaders from the global south, from, including Putin, of course, and Erdogan, in my neck of the woods, is very important. And it seems that the countries which have come, they have different governances. Some are more democratic than others. Do want to join forces for pragmatic reasons. That's why countries do trade, is for pragmatic reasons. But also they want to strengthen that part of the world in the face of Donald Trump's administration, which is like nothing we've ever seen before. And whereas in the past we had NATO and the EU in Europe, now we have Trump acting in a more unilateral way. And also his administration is quite suspicious of Europe and sees China as the enemy. So it seems to me quite natural that Erdogan, Putin, Myanmar, and India have met, and they are trying to find a way in which cooperation can strengthen their countries, because they can't, in a way, they can't rely on the United States as a predictable partner as they had in the past. So from where I'm sitting, it does look like quite successful. Of course, it depends what happens. And for me, what's interesting is also the talks on the sideline to do with the Ukraine conflict. I understand the Indian Prime Minister Modi did call Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, before the meeting. He'll be meeting Putin. So there'll be lots of interesting things happening there. And I think a lot of countries are particularly concerned about the United States, about Trump's tariffs as well. And that might unite them, even if they have ideological differences.
Thank you, Alison, for sharing that. I would also like to take Marianne next for what's your analysis? What do you think about this SCO summit now? And I would also like to ask, why do you think Belarus has joined the SCO now? What does it mean for the bloc?
Thank you very much for this question. Yeah, this summit is largest in history. What I know, when you talk about Belarus and the reasons why I joined to the SCO, I think the biggest reason is that Belarus has very complicated discussions with European countries and European bloc like European Union. It's obvious. It's because foreign policy mindset or ties of Belarus with different type of countries than countries inside the European Union. It's different view, it's different mindset that it's inside the European bloc. So it's very natural to Belarus to create own geopolitical viewpoint and new ties. When we said about the SCO, like organization, yes, it made a huge progress, and as I said, it's the biggest event to now. So yeah, we see their members, official members of this organization. We see their many partners, or maybe.
These are, thank you, Marianne, for sharing that. I would also like to highlight that these are live visuals coming in from Tianjin now, and we see that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is meeting President Xi Jinping and the First Lady, and they are maybe ready for a photo op as all leaders alongside them we are seeing. And I would now like to go back to the guest discussion. Dr. Taniguchi, what is your interpretation of this summit? Do you think this is to counterbalance the hegemony that is the hegemony mindset or strategy that is coming out of U.S. and do you think is summit counterparts? Is a counterpart of maybe European alliances? What do you think?
It is certainly what China wishes to achieve, to establish Sino-centric hegemonic order, replacing the United States with China. In the SCO framework, China provides the stadium, China provides the rule book, and China provides balls to play with. And if you wish to succumb to that order, do it. And it is sensible for countries like India to see what's going on around its nation, because India is in a very much precarious neighborhood, neighbor to Russia, neighbor to China. And India must benefit from the growing economic consumption power of China. So what India does is sensible, but I would rather not lose sight from the long-term trend. Since independence, India has thrived maintaining its democratic institutions to this day. Look at Russia, look at China. There is absolutely no freedom of any kind. And biological clock of Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping is the determinant factor for the fate of China's future or Russia's future. It is certainly true that China is on a tailwind, a massive tailwind, because of the reasons that the two of my panelists, colleague, have laid out. However, if you look at the long-term trend, economic prosperity will never be translated into democratization in China. So let's be extremely cautious.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Taniguchi, for sharing that. Now, I would like to go to Alison for this next question. Alison, now looking at President Putin's attendance in this SCO summit amid escalating military actions of Russia-Ukraine war, do you believe this dual-track approach of diplomacy abroad and escalation back home can be sustained long-term? What's your take on this?
Well, as you said, I think in your news bulletin, I think I wrote it down, it was 112 drone attacks, which is the highest number ever. Vladimir Putin is suffering because he's an international pariah. It's true he had the summit in Alaska, but other than that, he could be arrested in a lot of countries if he went abroad. Vladimir Putin desperately needs allies. He desperately needs strong allies. Belarus is not good enough. China is Russia's best bet because it's a big, strong nation. But Russia is very much the junior partner in this coalition. Of course, there's the North Korean president is attending this meeting. That's obviously quite important. At least Putin will feel at least that he's welcome for once. So psychologically, that'll be good for him. But of course, you have other things going on. As I think I said before, you have the Indian Prime Minister called Volodymyr Zelensky. Vladimir Putin will try and maneuver this meeting, get as much leverage as he can. He can't completely trust Donald Trump. He would like to think of his ally, but he can't because, the United States is part of NATO, and the EU has acted quite cleverly diplomatically recently with Donald Trump. So I will see that Vladimir Putin, first of all, be very happy that he's accepted in a big club because he hasn't been able to travel abroad for quite a few years, and he is an international pariah, and he will seek to create leverage. I mean, his aim is of creating recreating the Soviet Union, and of conquering Ukraine, as much of it as he can. I think your previous guest, Dr. Neohu, said that the biological clocks. That is true. But behind Vladimir Putin and behind Xi Jinping, there are other people probably with a similar mindset. So even if their biological age does mean something, it doesn't mean that waiting behind the scenes there are more, let's just say, I'm in Europe, more democratic-minded characters, because these are nations which do not have a history of democracy, and I don't see any imminent signs of democracy in these nations.
To Marianne for this take. Or what do you think? Do you agree with Alison and Dr. Taniguchi? And what role does China play in shaping Russia's posture through platforms like this? Do you think this deeper alignment with China can risk further isolating Russia, or do you think it's the opposite?
I think China, it's a big topic. What about dependency or independency of Russia on this country? I think the discussion between Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump is obvious sign of something like multilateralization of a Russian mindset in this case. So I think Russia will try to communicate more with current president of the United States, even from the reasons to not be so dependent on China. And yes, Vladimir Putin is present on SCO Summit, and he's obviously in a good position in this organization. But in case of war in Ukraine, when we mentioned this, so I think Russian president will try to communicate more with the president of the United States, but not only about war in Ukraine, but about many more topics and events what are happening around the world, for example in the Middle East, in case of Iran, in case of Gaza and Israel, and more and more events.
Thank you for sharing that, Marianne. I would like to also remind our viewers that this is live visuals coming in from Tianjin, and we are seeing the leaders now meeting President Xi Jinping and the First Lady, some along with their First Ladies as well, and some without them. But I would also like to go back to our discussion now. Dr. Taniguchi, what's your take on this Russia and China getting closer? Do you think, what is the strategy behind Russia, and what can China play in shaping Russia's international posture through platforms like this?
Russian economy is 1/3 of Japan's, and Japan's economy is much smaller than China these days. So you're looking at a very much junior partner, seen from the Beijing's viewpoint. Russia desperately needs, to echo one of our colleagues, desperately needs an ally, and that ally is China. So in that sense, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, is not providing safety. It is destroying safety. If you look at what Russia did to Ukraine, and China is earnestly supporting Russia, and North Korea is doing the same as well. So SCO's propaganda is one thing, but the reality is it is before our eyes destroying peace and safety in Europe.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tomohiko Taniguchi and Allison, as well as Marianne, for joining us today and sharing your insight from